Welcome back. Next, let's move on and look at some of our other qSQL actions. So we've seen select. Next, let's take a look at exec. And the exec statement can be written in a very similar way to select and will have the same rules around by, from, and where clauses. So the same way we did select size from daily, we can do exec size from daily. And instead of getting a table back, we now get a list. So if we just call one column with exec, we get a list back. If we ask for two columns, you'll see we now get a dictionary back instead. So depending on if you want a table, list, or dictionary back, you can decide whether you're going to use select or exec. We can also use by in the same way we did with select. So we can do something like exact price by sim. So this is obviously just a dictionary form. When we did select price by sim, we would get the column names as well, and it would be a key table. Okay. We could also use our sublist command if this is looking a bit too long and it's truncated. So we can run that on each of the columns individually in order to just make them smaller. So I'm getting 3 prices and the 3 first sizes here by each of my symbols. Just one very important thing to note with exec, you won't be able to run exec directly on a partition table. So if we try to run exec price from trade, for example, we get this NYI error. So it means obviously not yet implemented. I don't think this will ever be implemented. And basically this is not allowed when we have our partition table on disk. So instead what we'd have to do is exec price from and then select from trade here. And you'll be able to exec that column. So you have to kind of nest your exec around your select statement when you've got a table on disk. So yeah, we're just showing that instead with the sim column here. And we're able to run it when it's wrapped around the select statement, but not when it's directly on trade. So we're calling the sim column here. Okay. And this is just pulling the selection into memory, first of all, and then you're able to use exec. So when you use exec, your data has to be already in memory in order for it to work. Okay, so have a go with this exercise. So return the first open and last close prices for all symbols ending with L, and it wants you to return that as a dictionary and also specifically a key table. So try that using exec. And then we move on and look at our third qSQL action, which is update. And again, it looks very similar to both select and exec. And like select, your data is returned as a table, but the difference being your data will be updated with whatever you're passing between the select and the from. So if I have table daily again, I'm going to select the first 5 records, and then I'm going to update in the second command here the prices to be all negative. So my price before was positive, I'm going to update them to be negative, but I'm only going to do that for this condition where symbol equals apple. So you'll see here my first row was apple, and now my price has become a negative, whereas before it was a positive. And that's how we update our records in our table. You'll notice that even though I'm using a where condition here, I'm still getting all my symbols returned. So when you use update with your where, you still get the same data set returned. It's not reducing it down or filtering it like the select does. It's just actually updating those specific values for that condition. And just note, this hasn't been persisted. So if we went and checked our daily table after this again, so if we did 5 sublist daily at the end here, you might expect that price to be the same, but it's not. It's gone back to its prior value here. And if we wanted to update that, we could do something like create a new table here called daily, and that would create a new variable and overwrite this one. We could also update it by reference. So this is passing a backtick in front of the table name, and that will actually update it. So that's called passing the table by reference. So you'll see if I run that same command again, what we get back is this here, which means the table has been updated. And then we run 5 sublist daily again, and you'll see now my daily table has actually changed. Okay, just to be careful with this example, this will change any tables you may have on disk when you do use the table by reference. So if you have just wanted to make changes in memory, it's probably always safer to use explicit assignment at the front. So using our colon assignment. Okay. So we can also add new columns using update. So when we pass an update with the column that exists, so price already existed, it obviously updated the price column. When we don't have that column and we pass a new one, update will add new columns. So I would just put the new column name out in front of what I want to update. So you see here, if I had just done max size, it would just have updated my size column. So showing daily, and I'm updating max trade size, and I'm just filling in it with that size value as well. And then we're just selecting for where sim is Apple and sim is Dell down here. And you'll see that I have that new column added on for those subsequent select statements. Okay. Okay, so have a go with these two exercises. So update the daily column to have a new column come mid. So if we want a new column, remember we just need to have the colon assignment in front of the new column, and it should be the midpoint of the high and low prices. And don't modify the original table to do this. So we're just asking you to do that, and I put it to the terminal. The original table should not have changed. And then persist a change to the daily table so that all the DOW values are now half the price. So that's one of our symbols is DOW, so have a go with that one as well. And then our fourth and final qSQL action is delete. So delete will let us remove either our columns from a table or our rows from a table. So if we run delete from daily for a where condition here, it's going to remove those specific rows. So if we run file sublist daily before and afterwards, you'll see here I've got some rows for the second, and then afterwards I don't. They're all just the third returned. And then again, like before, if I don't have the backtick here or I don't use assignment at the front, that hasn't persisted. So I would need to do that if I wanted to keep that change, like so. So that's how I can delete specific rows from my data set. And I can also delete specific columns from my data set in a similar way. So if I wanted to delete a column, I could do something like delete sim from daily. But just note, you can't combine deleting your columns with your rows. So you'll get an NYI error. So you must do them in separate statements. That's another just thing to note when you're using delete. So you can list as many columns in here as you want, but you can't combine that with the deletion of the rows. Okay. So otherwise, all very straightforward, and everything we kind of touched upon in the first 3 videos on the select work in a very similar way for exec, update and delete. They just obviously do different things depending on what you want to do. Okay, so have a go with this exercise on delete, and then I shall see you in the next video.